and then moving on to check site distance functionality. This dialog dimensions could be populated according to your red book, looking at the road's geometric design and layout planning. Also dependent on your design speed. Let's take a closer look. Here you go and specify your eye height, and that is above your final design road layer. Looking over here, you go and specify your eye offset from the center line. And because I've put in a negative value, it means we're driving on the left-hand side. The object is 200 meters in front of me, and the object height is 250 mils high. Some people might prefer to put in 150 mils in that case. We've specified 0 offset from the center line, so the object is in the middle of the road. If you're designing a string road, you can see that your base and batter layer options are grayed out, and you can go and specify your road reserve settings. Where if you've got a fixed offset, you just go and specify your start and stop chainage. Alternatively, if you've got your road reserve in a CAD layer, you can actually go and pick it up from a CAD layer. In that case, Civil Designer will use your road reserve when calculating the site distance check. If you're doing a dual carriageway, you can see you've got additional options. And then on the right-hand side, ascending chain direction, so that's going from a smaller to a larger chainage. We're going to specify color 1. So where we can't see this object, Civil Designer will go and put in a line for us that's red. In a descending chainage direction, we'll go and put in the blue. If we cannot see this object due to a horizontal failure, and I'll explain that in more detail shortly, it will be indicated with a continuous or solid line. Profile failure would include a full 3D distance check, and it would include things like your cut banks, your vertical curves, as well as your components, if your components are set up correctly. This will all be indicated with a hidden line, and on the top there I've gone and selected the hidden line type so you can see what it looks like. If you wish, you can go and save this to CAD. Now we'd only save it as a CAD layer so that we can use what is indicated to us for our road markings. And then Civil Designer will automatically go and open this up in the vertical alignment, which is very useful so that if need be, you can go and make changes to your vertical alignment design. Clicking on OK. Specifying where you'd like the results. Once your analysis is run, you might want to just zoom in to see the results. So there you can see the red and the blue lines, as well as if I were to go and magnify in the difference between the solid and the hidden lines. You are able to turn these lines on and off by going to your ground line or display line icon and specifying the show site distance envelope. Using this information, it's quite easy just to go and right-click and go and make changes to your vertical alignment. If you'd like to sync plan view and the long section together, you could go to Settings, System Settings, specify the standard multiple document interface appearance, and then go back to Window and go and select Tile Project Horizontal. You'd preferably want to go and close your output window beforehand. So I'm just going to go and make that bigger. If I go and press F on the keyboard, that would then automatically pan the Design Center window relative to my cursor position in the long section. So on the top, or the plan view, you can see there's a red cross, and as I go and move, that view would be updated. So I can see exactly where in the plan view my profile has failed. Something worthwhile pointing out, if I'm in the long section and I want to move the view, I can go and press W. You can also see the lines indicated here at the bottom. I just want to point something out at chainage 353. So I'm going to go and zoom all, and then take my cursor, looking at my chainage value on the bottom right hand side, to chainage 350. At that point, if I zoom in on the top view, you can see I've got this dotted blue line as well as this red line over here. So using that information, I'm going to go and put in the appropriate road markings and close the vertical alignment and then maximize my plan view. Before I do this, I need to mention something. If we go to our output window, you can see that we've got an option here of horizontally failed. The horizontal failure normally happens before a horizontal curve. And just to go into more detail as far as that's concerned, if I go back to my check site distance and I go and press F1 for the help file, scrolling down to the bottom and selecting site distance. There's a very nice diagram at the bottom here explaining what that horizontal failure is. If you look over here, the distance from the driver to the object is always measured along the horizontal alignment. So if you've gone and specified a minimum site distance of 60 meters, that would be measured along the horizontal alignment length. However, when you're looking at the site distance, it says here, while the site distance of the driver to the object, which is the blue line, is taken in a straight line. So that would be then from the driver to the object, a straight line. If this line crosses the tow point or the road reserve, the program registers as a horizontal failure. So if your sight line is beyond the tow point or the road reserve line, it would be flagged as a horizontal failure. How does that compare to a profile failure over here? The profile failure indicates a full 3D sight distance check fails. This could include your cut banks, your vertical curves, or even your components. Closing that and closing my output. Before I put in my road markings, just to point out, if I go to my display settings and I go and select the plan layout, I've gone and turned on the road edges. And I can use those road edges when putting in my road markings. Another thing worth taking note of is if you want to display your changes in the render view, you can go and turn it on over here. Now, it may be a good idea just to take note of which CAD layer you're working with. Go to signage, road markings, specify which ones we're looking at. We're looking at regulatory markings and no overtaking line. Go and specify. Now, I've beforehand gone and measured the offset. Also important in this case is to specify a start and an endpoint mode. Click on the green tick. Using the road edge, I pointed out in my display settings. I go and left click next to the road edge, specify where I want to start, and I want to start where that white line starts. So I'm then going to press J for jump and enter. As I move my cursor, you can see that line being drawn for me. Pressing W on my keyboard and zooming out. Stopping over there, press J again and enter. Specifying a different offset for the blue line. Changing my zoom view. Using the road edge. and then specifying my start point. J for jump and enter. Right click and quit. If you want to view that in 3D, you could actually use these sight distance polylines as a fly path. Just to show you a quick example, if I go and right click again, select render view, you'll see if I go and right click, I have the option to fly along that polyline. Just to give you a quick idea, this blue line was demarcated where we cannot see the object. So you can see over here we've got the horizontal bend, and we've used the blue line, and I've just gone and put in the solid line as the road markings. Exiting out of the render view. Next up, I want to show you how you can define your own fly path. I'm going back to my CAD layers, and I'm going to turn off that site check layer we created. I go and right click again and go and select render view. Now instead of right clicking and selecting the normal fly along road entity, in this case I'm going to go and select fly through, where you can go and create your own camera path. And if you go and click on add, you can go and select the road, specify a name, and then use that as a camera path. In my case, I'm going to use the previous road that I've created. You go and specify your height above path, and this was according to the red book that I pointed out. Specify your horizontal offset. So let's say this is where you position while you're driving the car. Then the target path, that would be the object used to calculate the minimum sight distance. You go and specify a sight distance. Now they make this a bit different to the red book, just so that we can all see it graphically. And they make it a bit higher than what it should be. You can go and specify a speed, and you could also go in a reverse direction, because remember this function works in an ascending and descending direction. Closer to the bottom here, you have the option to enable a video capture. So if you want to send this to your client, you could go and specify where you'd like to save it, and it saves it as an AVI file. Specify your output resolution as well as your frame rate. And when you go through the process, Civil Designer will give you the option to compress the file. Turning that off for now and clicking on Run Fly Through. So as we drive down the road, you'll see where we cannot see that yellow beacon in front of us, we've gone and put in solid lines. Remember, I may have over-designed, and I am using a bigger cone so that everybody can see it. So this really gives you a nice graphical indication of your check-in sight distance. We've managed to bring the fun back into your road design.